Dear Ashton, I know the secrets your role model keeps for you. Role model being Danny Masterson. Ones that would end you. Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone the night you called Danny on February 21st, 2001, which is the night of Ashley Ellerin's murder. I heard everything. I heard.
Dear Ashton, I know the secrets your role model keeps for you. The ones that would end you. Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone the night you called Danny Masterson on February 21st, 2001. The night Ashley Ellerin was murdered. I heard everything. I heard the plan. She was there, and she went public anyway. That 60 seconds reveals the architecture of the biggest story mainstream media refuses to touch, and today we are connecting every single piece. Jim Caviezel is not a man who speaks carelessly. He watched his career get dismantled because he refused to stay quiet. Recently, he broke down while exposing what he believes happened to Brittany Murphy, not just her official cause of death, but what allegedly happened to her inside a network before she died. To understand what Caviezel is revealing, you have to look at the timeline. It begins with how Brittany got pulled into the orbit of Ashton Kutcher, a modeling face for Abercrombie & Fitch, owned by Les Wexner, the billionaire who handed Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney over his empire. From that 70s show to writing character letters for convicted predator Danny Masterson, Kutcher maintained these ties for decades. But before Epstein, before Brittany Murphy, sit with February 21st, 2001. When Ashley Ellerin was killed, Kutcher's first calls weren't to 911. They were to his manager and Masterson. Accusers confirmed they heard the plan on speakerphone. Add the long-standing ties to Diddy. 3 suspicious pneumonia deaths under the same coroner's office. Brittany Murphy, Simon Monjack, and Kim Porter, and a picture forms. Was Brittany taken, filmed, and silenced when she knew too much? The machinery of Hollywood power is finally cracking, and the truth is coming to light. When you trace the origins of how someone gets pulled into this machine, you quickly realize that Hollywood's success rarely happens by accident. It is designed through doors, and the doors you walk through dictate the rooms you end up operating inside. For Ashton Kutcher, born Christopher Ashton Kutcher in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the ascent was blindingly fast. He had no direct industry access, no high-profile legacy family, and no established connections. He was simply a young man discovered at a bar in the late 1990s who was immediately catapulted into high-fashion modeling. But looking closely at those early career steps reveals an environment that overlaps directly with some of the most powerful and controversial figures of the last few decades. His early modeling work was prominently tied to Abercrombie & Fitch. At the time, the brand was controlled by Les Wexner, the billionaire retail mogul behind L Brands, Victoria's Secret, and Bath & Body Works. Wexner is not just any corporate executive. He is the man who granted Jeffrey Epstein total power of attorney over his personal and corporate financial empire, handed over a $77 million Manhattan mansion, and provided Epstein with the ultimate cover of legitimacy to build his global criminal enterprise. While being the face of an Abercrombie campaign does not make an actor guilty of a crime, it demonstrates how early Kutcher entered the orbit of power structures that would later become central to global investigations. From modeling, Kutcher transitioned seamlessly to television, landing a lead role on that 70s show in 1998. The sitcom became an instant cultural phenomenon, transforming its young cast into household names overnight. Within that set environment, Kutcher forged 2 relationships that would come to define his personal and public life for the next quarter century. One was with Mila Kunis, whom he would eventually marry. The other was with Danny Masterson. Kutcher openly revered Masterson, publicly describing him as a mentor, a role model, and an exceptional older brother figure who guided the younger cast members through the temptations and pitfalls of sudden fame. That bond remained intact even as serious, horrific allegations began to surround Masterson. Years later, when Masterson was on trial for multiple counts of forcible rape, the depth of Kutcher's loyalty became undeniable. Following Masterson's conviction, Kutcher and Kunis submitted personal character reference letters directly to the presiding judge, urging leniency during sentencing. Kutcher vouched for Masterson's character, painting him as a man of integrity who was inherently good to those around him. The backlash was immediate, fierce, and global. Victims, legal analysts, and the public expressed outrage that a man who had built a massive public persona around anti-trafficking advocacy would leverage his influence to defend a convicted predator. Kutcher and Kunis released a filmed apology explaining that the letters were requested by Masterson's family to reflect their 25-year friendship rather than undermine the judicial process. Yet, the apology left critical questions untouched. Why did Kutcher continue to view Masterson as a role model despite years of credible, detailed accusations, and what did he actually witness during those decades together? To understand why figures like Jim Caviezel are speaking out now, you have to examine the crucial night of February 21st, 2001. That evening, Kutcher had arranged a date with a 22-year-old fashion student named Ashley Ellerin. According to court records and Kutcher's own sworn testimony, he arrived at her Hollywood home late, knocked on the door, and received no response. He testified that he peered through the window, saw what he believed to be red wine spilled on the carpet, assumed she had left out of annoyance, and walked away. In reality, Ashley Ellerin was lying inside, dead, having been brutally attacked and stabbed 47 times by a serial killer. While Kutcher's testimony was used by prosecutors to establish a precise timeline for the murder, accusers and whistleblowers have challenged the official version of what happened immediately after he left that doorstep. Chrissy Bixler, a former partner of Danny Masterson who was present in Masterson's circle that night, came forward with a deeply disturbing account. She publicly stated that Kutcher did not immediately call emergency services or local law enforcement after suspecting something was wrong. Instead, she alleged that Kutcher spent significant time on the phone with his talent manager trying to assess the potential damage to his career and public image before placing a speakerphone call directly to Danny Masterson. According to Bixler, Masterson and those in the car heard the entire conversation, a frantic discussion regarding how to handle finding a potential crime scene without implicating himself or destroying his rising stardom. Public figures like Caviezel have pointed to these specific phone calls and discrepancies, alleging that the public narrative presented in court was a sanitized version designed to protect a rising Hollywood asset. This pattern of moving in circles dominated by compromised, powerful men extends far beyond Masterson. Over 2 decades, Kutcher maintained a visible, close relationship with music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The two were frequently photographed together at exclusive parties, industry events, and private gatherings. They presented a public image of mutual respect and high-level camaraderie. However, as federal prosecutors systematically dismantled Combs' empire, uncovering decades of alleged racketeering, sex trafficking, and forced coercion, every public figure in his inner circle faced intense scrutiny. When asked in past interviews about his experiences at Combs' legendary gatherings, Kutcher deflected with a smile, stating on camera that he had countless stories he simply could not tell publicly. What was once brushed off as playful Hollywood secrecy takes on a far darker context when viewed alongside federal indictments. It is within this intersecting web of modeling moguls, convicted predators, secret phone calls, and elite parties that the central allegations raised by Jim Caviezel come into focus. Caviezel, an established actor who saw his mainstream Hollywood career altered after taking on controversial roles and speaking out against industry corruption, argues that the public only sees the surface layer of a much larger, highly organized system. He asserts that locations like Jeffrey Epstein's private island were not isolated anomalies, but rather part of a broader infrastructure of remote properties, private venues, and controlled environments where young, vulnerable talent was lured, exploited, and systematically recorded. These recordings, according to survivors and whistleblowers, served a dual purpose: gratifying powerful individuals while generating irrefutable blackmail material to ensure lifelong silence and compliance. A young actor or actress invited into these high-level circles by a charismatic, top-tier celebrity would feel honored and validated rather than endangered. By the time they realized the true nature of the environment they had entered, the leverage had already been established, effectively trapping them inside a system where speaking out meant immediate professional and personal destruction. This exact leverage is what brings us directly to the tragic story of Brittany Murphy. At the height of her career, Brittany was one of the most vibrant, talented, and recognizable young actresses in Hollywood. With standout performances in major films like Clueless, 8 Mile, and the romantic comedy Just Married, where she starred alongside her then-boyfriend, Ashton Kutcher, she had secured her position as a bankable Hollywood star. Their high-profile romance placed them at the very center of the industry's social hierarchy, moving through the same elite circles and attending the same exclusive gatherings. However, after her relationship with Kutcher ended, Brittany's career trajectory underwent a sudden and unexplained shift. Despite her immense talent and proven box office appeal, the major studios slowly began closing their doors to her. Offers for top-tier roles began to dry up, and she was increasingly pushed to the margins of the industry she had once dominated. Whispers circulated within trade publications about her being difficult or unreliable, but those close to her saw a different reality. A young woman who had seen the inner workings of an elite network and was struggling under the weight of that knowledge. Then came the morning of December 20th, 2009. Brittany Murphy collapsed inside the bathroom of her Hollywood Hills home. She was only 32 years old. Emergency services were called, but she was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office quickly declared the official cause of death to be primary pneumonia, severe iron deficiency anemia, and multiple drug intoxication from over-the-counter and prescription medications, ruling the death entirely natural. The tragedy took a far stranger and more disturbing turn just 5 months later. In May 2010, Brittany's husband, screenwriter Simon Monjack, was found dead in the exact same bedroom of the exact same house. The official cause of death issued by the coroner's office was identical: acute pneumonia and severe anemia. Two healthy individuals living in the same home, dying of the exact same rare combination of natural causes within 5 months of each other immediately raised alarm bells across the country. Brittany's father, Angelo Bertolotti, refused to accept the official narrative from local authorities. Convinced that his daughter and son-in-law had been intentionally silenced, Bertolotti launched an independent investigation. He secured court orders to obtain independent toxicological testing on hair, blood, and tissue samples from Brittany's body. The results from an accredited independent laboratory were shocking. The samples revealed abnormally high concentrations of 10 heavy metals, including elements commonly found in commercial rat poisons and insecticides. Bertolotti publicly accused powerful figures within the Hollywood system of poisoning his daughter to prevent her from exposing sensitive information about elite networks. Until his death, he maintained that Brittany's tragic end was not an accident of poor health, but an organized hit carried out by individuals who operated above the law. This is the exact point where Jim Caviezel connects the dots that mainstream media outlets have consistently refused to address. Caviezel alleges that Brittany Murphy's decline and sudden death were directly linked to her exposure to controlled, private environments operated by industry elites. According to these allegations, Brittany was brought into hidden physical networks, subjected to compromised situations, and filmed without her full awareness. When she made it clear to those around her that she intended to speak publicly about what she had witnessed and experienced inside those closed rooms, the surrounding machinery acted decisively to ensure her silence. The concept of covertly recording high-profile individuals and vulnerable targets is not a hypothetical conspiracy theory. It is a documented tactic embedded within these operations. Investigations into Jeffrey Epstein's properties revealed extensive networks of hidden surveillance equipment embedded inside walls, clocks, and private bedrooms. Federal authorities confirmed that these recordings were designed to capture compromising footage, creating a massive library of blackmail material. This material allowed handlers to control high-ranking politicians, corporate executives, and Hollywood stars, ensuring that anyone who stepped out of line faced immediate ruin or worse. If Brittany Murphy possessed knowledge of these operations or threatened to expose who was participating in them, her survival became a direct threat to the entire apparatus. The systemic nature of these events becomes even clearer when examining the broader pattern of suspicious deaths surrounding this specific social orbit. Consider the case of Kim Porter, the longtime partner of Sean Diddy Combs and the mother of 3 of his children. In November 2018, Kim Porter was found dead in her home at the age of 47. The official cause of death listed by the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office was, once again, lobar pneumonia. Prior to her death, close associates reported that Porter was actively writing a detailed tell-all memoir detailing her decades inside Combs' inner circle, including the private events, coercive practices, and compromised figures that frequented his inner domain. The manuscript reportedly vanished following her death, and no official investigation was launched into the timing of her sudden demise. Remarkably, all three of these high-profile pneumonia deaths, Brittany Murphy, Simon Monjack, and Kim Porter, were processed under the oversight of the exact same Los Angeles County Coroner's official, Ed Winter. While public agencies naturally handle multiple high-profile cases over a decade, critics and legal observers point out how routinely these cases were closed without exploring potential foul play, secondary toxicology, or physical coercion. The official rulings consistently framed these events as tragic, isolated health failures, effectively closing the book on legal inquiries before subpoenas could be issued or witnesses placed under oath. When figures like Jim Caviezel speak publicly about these dynamics, they are highlighting an overarching structural reality, an untouchable class created by money, media control, and mutual leverage. The individual pieces of this narrative, Ashton Kutcher's early ties to Les Wexner, his frantic phone calls to Danny Masterson on the night of Ashley Elleren's murder, his long-standing friendship with Diddy, the character letters written for convicted predators, and the unexplained deaths of women linked to these exact circles, are not isolated coincidences. They form a consistent pattern of behavior and protection. For decades, the public image of these powerful figures was meticulously crafted through high-budget public relations campaigns, strategic philanthropic initiatives, and carefully timed media appearances. However, as federal investigations expand, sealed court documents are opened, and former insiders break their silence, the architecture designed to protect these networks is beginning to fail. The narrative surrounding Brittany Murphy's death is no longer just a cold case from 2009. It stands as a central warning about the hidden costs of Hollywood power, the extreme measures used to maintain silence, and the ongoing effort to bring the truth into the light. To truly understand why this wall of protection lasted for so long, you have to look at how public perception is built and managed at the highest levels. For years, figures like Ashton Kutcher didn't just survive in Hollywood. They thrived by constantly reinventing their public image. Every time a narrative became uncomfortable, a new persona was ready to replace it. First, it was the goofy sitcom star, then the high-fashion icon, then the tech-savvy Silicon Valley investor, and eventually, the noble humanitarian leading the charge against child exploitation. On paper, it was a masterclass in brand management. The public applauded every iteration because the narrative was polished, convincing, and delivered with absolute confidence. Yet, underneath that carefully curated image lies a trail of documented facts that contrast sharply with the public persona. This is a man who wrote a passionate character letter to a judge on behalf of Danny Masterson, a convicted rapist, referring to him as a lifelong role model and exceptional brother figure. This is a man who is directly tied to the night of Ashley Elleren's brutal murder, whose first instinct after seeing a suspicious scene was not to call the police, but to spend over an hour on the phone with his talent manager and place a speakerphone call to Masterson. This is a man who spent 2 decades moving in the immediate orbit of Sean, Diddy Combs, laughing off questions about his private parties while claiming his stories were simply things he could never reveal on television. The strategic silence surrounding these connections speaks volumes. In the world of high-level PR, silence is not an oversight. It is a calculated defense mechanism. When you build your entire reputation on being a champion for the vulnerable and a fighter against human trafficking, remaining completely silent about close associates facing severe federal charges isn't just hypocritical, it reveals a conscious choice to protect access over accountability. This brings us back to the core warning raised by whistleblowers and insiders like Jim Caviezel, the existence of an elite tier that operates under a completely different set of rules. For decades, those involved in these overlapping networks operated with near total immunity. They relied on local authorities to rule suspicious deaths as natural causes, on judges to accept flattering character references, on publicists to spin dark allegations into harmless rumors, and on mainstream media outlets to look the other way when powerful interests were involved. The machinery existed solely to protect the status quo, ensuring that no matter how many victims came forward or how many suspicious circumstances arose, the men at the center remained untouched. However, the environment that enabled this cover-up is rapidly unraveling. Federal cases are dismantling multi-decade criminal enterprises from the ground up. Previously sealed court records, flight logs, and witness statements are being unsealed, and the culture of total silence in Hollywood is fracturing. The questions surrounding Brittany Murphy, her husband Simon Monjack, and Kim Porter are no longer being buried under official coroner reports. They are being re-examined by a public that recognizes the unmistakable pattern of how powerful systems silence those who threaten to expose them. Brittany Murphy's father, Angelo Bertolotti, spent the remainder of his life fighting an uphill battle against a system that treated him as an outsider. He spent his own money on independent toxicology reports, found evidence of heavy metal contamination, and repeatedly called out the industry elites he believed were responsible. He was mocked, dismissed as a grieving conspiracy theorist, and ignored by every official channel that was supposed to seek justice. But history has a way of catching up with carefully protected secrets. The questions he died asking are the exact same questions now being shouted from public platforms. Was Brittany taken into private, off-grid locations? Was she subjected to covert surveillance to construct blackmail leverage? And was she permanently silenced when it became clear she would not carry those secrets to her grave? We are no longer living in an era where public relations campaigns can completely erase documented connections, secret phone calls, and suspicious toxicological reports. Insiders like Jim Caviezel are speaking out not out of a desire for publicity, but because the weight of the full picture demands to be spoken aloud. The architecture that protected Hollywood's most powerful players for over 2 decades is finally losing its structural integrity. The dust is settling, the vaults are opening, and the truth about what happened behind those closed doors is finally stepping out of the shadows.